Aaron, you can't tell me he's not a 9 out of 10.
Not a 9 out of 10.
Oh, God.
He's not a 9 out of 10.
Oh, you're joking me.
No. Simply because...
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the All Dale Aren't We YouTube channel. I've got Aaron with me this evening. Obviously, Aaron, it has been a poor season on the pitch for the club. We are struggling at the bottom depths of the table, really. It's not been much to shout about this season, but obviously I just wanted to go through some of the players that have played for us this season, get your honest opinion, what you rate them out of 10, and whether you'd keep or sell them moving into the next season. Just so everyone is aware, we are doing this from the Rochdale official page, so I'm sorry it's not in any proper order or anything, but we will get through everybody who's, had a noticeable mention for the club this season. So starting off with the goalkeeper, Richard O'Donnell. What do you reckon on him, Aaron?
Yeah, for Big Dick, I'd give him a 7.5. He's been a bit of a shining light for us this season. Made some fantastic saves, kept us in the game, where our defence have really lacked and let us down. And he's taken on a bit of a commanding role, to be honest.
Absolutely. Would he be someone that you'd be interested in keeping in for next season?
100%, yeah. It's the goalkeeper you'd need for the back line, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I echo a lot of them points. I think he's had a very tough job. With the players that have been in front of him. It's been a hard job for him to keep consistent clean sheets. But he is someone that I'd look at possibly next season if he is going to stay on. That I'd look at moving him onto the captaincy role. He does seem like quite a bit of a leader in and around the club, and I think he's a firm fan's favourite really. Similar to yourself, I'd probably give him about a 7.5. And I'd definitely like to keep him going on into next season. Moving on from Richard, I'd like to talk a bit about Femi Siriki. Obviously brought in on loan in the summer by Stockdale from Sheffield United. He had previous loan spells out at Boston United and I believe in the Belgian league as well. Initially a player that actually got a bit of excitement out of the fans in the opening game. I remember against Crewe, he was quite a good performer in that game, and I think fans were excited for him moving forward from that. He looked like someone that was really going to kick on for the season, despite losing obviously that game. But yeah, what would you rate his season out of 10? And is he someone that you'd be interested in having around the club?
To be honest, I'd give him a 4. He started quite well, and then from there he's dropped off, and he's had some very, very poor moments of quality, including the Doncaster game, in which he lost the ball and was responsible for that second goal going in. So I definitely wouldn't be someone I'd keep again. Maybe under the right management, maybe yes, but not something I would potentially look at keeping.
He's one of them weird players, I think. He's one of those players I'd put into the bracket that, if he moved on to another club, I think I could see him being successful. I just don't think this has been the right environment for him at all. A stable League Two team, I think he has a good season, and I think he gets a few more assists under the belt and goes on a good season. But yeah, looking to keep and sell, I definitely wouldn't be interested in bringing him back on for the following season. He's not someone that's really posed on me at all. So yeah, I'd probably be similar in my score, probably a little bit harsher, maybe a 3 out of 10. He has had his few moments here and there, but certainly not consistently enough. Moving on from Femi Siriki, we've got AD White. Obviously, he's been here now for over a year, injury plagued, has struggled for fitness in his time at the club. A weird player in the sense that, Stockdale brought him in the first place, but then never really seemed to use him. Obviously, he has, like I say, he has been plagued by injury. But when he has had his appearances this season, he hasn't looked awful. He's chipped in here and there. I mean, he has seemed to be castigated out of the team now and ousted. And I don't know, obviously, going forward, obviously with Bentley sacking, whether he might get a few more appearances here and there towards the end of the season. But yeah, what's your honest opinions on AD White this season?
Honest opinion, I honestly can't remember much of him playing this season. That's how little he's been involved. So for that, I'd have to give him a 2. And purely because he is injury plagued, I would say look at getting someone else in that can play in that position and can play 20 odd matches a season rather than having someone that can't string 2 or 3 together.
Absolutely, I'm probably relatively similar in what I believe. I'm probably not as harsh as you in the rating of it all. When he has played, I think he's actually been quite a steady Eddie. A 5 out of 10 performer most match days for me. But considering his injury record and how that's gone for him, I think the only option for the club really in the summer is to look at moving him on. He's struggled. So moving on to Jim McNulty, player that's not featured too much this season. Weirdly enough, he has been the manager. Well, he is going to be the manager twice this season. He has had a few performances here and there, and when he has played, quite a steady Eddie when he has played. What would you rate his season on the playing side of things?
On the playing side, I know he's not had as many appearances, but I would give him a 5. He's looked pretty solid. Quite different from when he's played in previous seasons.
He brings that experience, doesn't he, to the back line?
He's got a lot more experience, and he seems a lot more calm and composed compared to previous seasons. And he's someone I've wanted to play more this season, definitely.
So you'd be interested. I mean, this obviously is if he wants to stay on playing. Would you be interested in giving him another year?
Yeah, because he's got that experience. He can help if we had another young centre back come through the next season. Definitely, that he's got that experience, and he's someone he's level-headed. We could do with that experience.
Yeah, I'm probably similar again with this one. About a 5 for me when he has played. If he could stay in some sort of capacity like that he has now with the player coach role, he's done well when he's been called upon. He is Mr. Reliable, and he is, I suppose now he is another one that is a Mr. Rochdale type of character. But yeah, as I say, I'd keep him on if we could keep him on in that capacity. Moving on to one of his defensive compatriots, Max Taylor. Bit of a funny season for Max. Showed glimpses last season of a really good developing defender that could be a sellable asset for the club in the future. But this season's been a bit of an odd one, obviously. Stayed on under Stockdale, was given a contract extension without really playing any games, and was then brought back into the fold by Jim Bentley towards after Christmas time. A few, outstanding performances. I highlight the Bradford game away at Bradford. Was brilliant in that back five. Had a really steady night that night, and I was hoping from that point he'd kick on. Obviously, it's not happened. We're sat at the bottom of the pyramid, but I don't think Max is solely to blame for that. I think the guidance and leadership around him has failed him in that regard. But what do you reckon?
Yeah, he's I'd say 5. He's been in and out with it, like you say. Obviously, he's still young, and he's still got to have obviously those defenders alongside of him to help him and help him. And if he's not got that help, especially from the captain, leading, then he's still gonna make mistakes. He's still young, but like you say, he's showing promise, and give him a couple more seasons, and he could still kick on and do something with his career, definitely.
No, absolutely. As I say, I'd probably give him a 6 out of 10 when he's played. Nothing superb, but when he has had his appearances, he has been fairly decent. So moving forward, he will be someone I'd like to keep around the club. Moving on from Max, we have got the captain, Ethan Ebanks Landell. Now this is a weird one. All the signs when he signed in the summer. I think you and me both were really excited to see him back at the club. In that loan spell that he had under Keith, he was brilliant, fantastic player in our Great Escape season. Contributed goals, was a real sturdy stalwart at the back, and I think as fans that's all what we expected when he came back in. But that just hasn't transpired to be this season. Captain as well, which is hard. I mean, you only have to really highlight the game over the weekend at Crawley. Puts the ball out of touch about 1,000,000 times, but under no pressure, just booting the ball out, falling over and not getting back up, just letting people run past him. It's a really weird one. But me personally, I'd give him a 2 out of 10 this season, and he's not someone I'd like to keep at the club anymore.
Yeah, I'd give him sort of similar. Definitely not someone I'd keep. If he was to stay, I definitely wouldn't have him as captain. I feel like the role's too much for him, especially when.
You don't feel like he's a leader, that type of person?
Given the players we have, like O'Donnell and Henderson, I feel like they're more leadership quality. They should be the ones taking on the captaincy. When Henderson came back, I was expecting Henderson to maybe take the captaincy this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
not Ebanks Landell.
Yeah. No, yeah, he has struggled in what has been a poor season. I don't know if that has anything to play in it. Maybe he is a bit of a confidence player, and maybe that has ultimately what's affected him this season. But we'll see what the summer brings with that one. Moving on from Landell, Liam Kelly, another weird player. You look at it again, brought in by Stockdale, pedigree of a higher level, played in the Championship for Reading consistently at one stage, has obviously had international experience away in playing for Feyenoord. I think when we all brought him in last season, I think all the fans thought it was a real coup of a signing, someone that we could all really get behind as being a bit of a star player for the club. He's had good performances here and there. But he does seem to see me someone that doesn't really care. Not really. He's not a fighter. He's not someone you want in a dogfight. He's a bit of a luxury player. I'd say he was, but ultimately, what do you think, Aaron? Out of 10, and would you have him here next season?
He is a bit of a Rolls Royce player. He's one of those that are probably too good for the club, maybe, and it was definitely a coup, like you said, to get him. Definitely someone that has produced magical moments when he can be bothered and when he is playing. Obviously, I think injuries don't help the fact. Obviously, if he's playing consistently,
he has been quite injury prone in his time, hasn't he?
Yeah. So if he's someone that's playing consistently, then he's definitely going to help and he'll kick on and move quite nicely. But because he's so injury prone, it makes it a little bit more difficult. But when he is playing, I would give him a 5.5, maybe a 6. Someone that can produce those magic moments.
I think it is a tough one going forward. I don't see him someone being up for another fight in the National League.
No, definitely not.
I think he will get his luxury moved, maybe to a higher battle in League 2 club, or maybe even a League 1 club. I think he has got the pedigree and the know-how to move that high up again. He's certainly not been one of the worst performers this season, but injuries and consistency has been a real struggle for him. Moving on from Liam Kelly, we've got James Ball, another Stockdale addition to this squad, which seems to be most of the case, to be fair.
Yeah.
Another strange one came in last season. Scored quite a few goals. Looked like a firm fan's favourite at the start. Just not transpired to be, has it, this season? He's been poor in and out of the squad. Now he's completely ousted out of the squad. Give me your take on it all, Aaron.
Yeah, James Ball. I mean, I'm going to be controversial on this one. When am I not controversial in any of the stuff that comes to this?
I can't wait for your Henderson talk. So
yeah, that'll be great. No, Ball. I did say it in the Twitter Spaces the other week. Ball is someone I would take. He's got the know-how, and I think if we can refine that form he had when he first started with us, fantastic, because he is someone that can do it, and he's got the know-how. I think as well as a fan base, us getting on his back a lot, especially about obviously what he does online as well.
That does Mr. Social Media himself.
I think stuff like that as well that doesn't help.
Yeah, I can get that.
Especially with Tyrese as well.
Yeah, no, I think as a fan base we are quick to point things out very, very, very quickly.
But for me, I know when people have criticised him a lot in recent games and when he was playing, he still looked like he was trying. He still cared. He still wanted to do stuff for the team. Obviously, people will see it differently. People have different opinions and views on it.
Just to cast your mind back, obviously, I don't know if you were there. Were you at the Accrington game?
Yeah, I was at the Accrington, yeah.
I mean, stuff like that nonsense he was doing when he scored, running over to the fans, our fans shushing them. What how can you condone that behaviour and having someone at the club?
Maybe for him it's a mental mind game of he's shushing, obviously, the fans that...
The haters.
The ones that will give him the hate.
Yeah.
For him, maybe it's a mind game for himself. He needs to overcome that obstacle of, obviously, our own fans. I know it's been a very toxic season because of how it's been, and that's not going to help.
I can tell you like James Ball because this is the most in-depth we've had yet.
Yeah. To be fair, Ball is someone I liked when he came in last season, and I
think most did.
And he was very unlucky, and I don't think he deserved a lot of the hate he's got.
No, I think that's warranted. I think that's a fair, valid point you've made there. Yeah, me looking at him myself, like I say, it hasn't happened for him this season at all. I can see your point with what you're saying with the National League. He's been there, he's done it. Would he be the type of player you'd want next season? Maybe. I don't see it being something that will happen though. But in my own personal opinion, I wouldn't keep him anyway. And purely based off this season, I'd have to give him a 2 out of 10. He's been quite poor, very, very low on numbers, and when he has played, that's Mr. Social Media for you. Moving on from James Ball, we've got Damani Melli, who came in on loan, one of Jim Bentley's signings. Bit raw, has not had a lot of pedigree in the football pyramid. I believe he'd scored only one goal for Wickham before he came out on loan to us. Odd player. I liken him to Raquel Pike. Hasn't really got a lot about him, in my opinion. I'd have to give him a 2 out of 10 again. Poor player for me. Not good enough, nowhere near the level needed or required, and I certainly wouldn't be looking at bringing him back next season.
No, definitely. It's for me, I'd give him a 3, just not as harsh. It does look like he knows what he wants to do. It's whether or not he gets a service and he can do it. On Saturday, it looked like he was making a fair few runs. It just wasn't to be with the service for me personally.
That's a fair point. Moving on from Damani Mellor, we've got Devante Rodney. Obviously, brought in by Stockdale at the start of the season on a 2-year deal. He has been, I'd say, another one of the shining lights this season. A bit inconsistent, not always at it always. He does seem a bit of a selfish player, but he scores goals, and I believe he is our top goal scorer this season with 10, I think it is. So me personally, I'd like to keep him. I'd like to see him have a go at it next season in National League if it's something he would be interested in doing. As I say, 7 out of 10 for me. Has scored goals when we've needed them at certain points, not as consistently as we probably would need. But yeah, he'd be someone I'd definitely be interested in keeping on next season.
Yeah,
like yourself, Aaron.
100% keep on Devante Rodney. He's come up with the goals as and when we need them.
Yeah,
and he's scored some quite good goals. He's run, and he's got the strength about him as well to hold off and run at the defenders. So that's definitely another positive for me.
Brilliant, yeah. So moving on from Devante Rodney, we've got Abraham Odo, another weird player.
Starboy.
Actually brought in by BBM. One of BBM's signings. Somehow managed to windle his way through contract after contract. He's someone who's not really set the world alight. He looks quite good on the ball.
Flashes in the pan, I would say.
Yeah, flashes in the pan, definitely. He has those moments of greatness, but then seems to lack the end product. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the Odo watch on Twitter.
Yeah.
His stats have been horrific this season, and up until about 3 games ago, you wouldn't have even known if he existed in this squad. With the performances he's been putting out, he has started to turn it on a little bit the past few weeks. But for me, you know what? He's a weird one. I think he's actually going to get a move to a higher league club than us, because I think people can see those raw moments of talent that he's got, and I think if it was developed on and worked on in the right environment, I think someone would nurture him and make him a better player all around. But for me personally, this season, I think he is about a 3 out of 10, and I'm only giving him a 3 because of what's happened in the past few weeks.
Yeah.
If the last 3 weeks hadn't happened, I'd be giving him a 0. He's been that poor for me. But yeah, regardless of whether I'd want to keep him or not, I think he is a player that we probably will move on in the summer.
Yeah,
but yourself?
Yeah, definitely. He's someone that would probably move on. I'd like to give him a chance in the National League, see what he can do. He's shown in the last couple of weeks that he has got it in him. So I'd like to see if he could kick on and move on with it and see what he can do. Give himself some time away from the Football League, let him develop a little bit more, and then see if he can push on. But like you say, obviously opposition teams have seen how good he can be.
I get it highlighted all the time.
Yeah.
I had Grimsby fans the other week in that game saying what a nippy player he is and look what he's doing. I was telling people don't be fooled.
But then again, he could be one of those players that can move on and do quite well away from the club. We've seen it so many times, and it's a classic example. Obviously, we don't have the facilities like other clubs will to nurture players like that.
That is a fair point. Yeah, that is a fair point. Moving on from Odo, we've got this one's a bit of a stupid one. We'll move on from this one pretty quick, but I will just highlight it. Dan Hadstead. We obviously know what Dan Hadstead's about. I think he's a little bit overhyped from his time previously at the club. He's not played, and I'm not going to ask you to give him a rating, obviously. But I just wanted to touch on it. Another masterclass from Bentley.
Panic signing,
scrambling around on deadline day to see what we could get. Obviously, Dan Hadstead's come in, but instantly got injured. Hasn't made an appearance yet. May very well do before the end of the season. If we're lucky enough, but I doubt it's something that's going to happen. I'm not going to ask you to give a rating on him. It's been a bit of a shambles, that one. Jimmy Keohane, utility player, Mr. Reliable, some would say. Quite a prolific goal scorer a few years ago from right back. I think he was a player at the time when he signed that contract everyone was really happy with. But I think he's been exposed a bit this season as a player that hasn't got a lot about him.
Not the same player as he was last season. Definitely very poor. As I think one of his definite poorer moments was Walsall. He just could not get into that game at all, and he looked very, very poor. Since then, he's been moved from the defence and into midfield, and I still don't really see what he's brought to the team this season. So for me, definitely would be a 3, maybe a 4, and someone to move on. Definitely.
Let's move on. Yeah, I think I'd have to agree similar with that. It has been a poor season for Kiahan by Kiahan standards of the past few years. Yeah, about a 2 or a 3. Maybe if we could offer the right type of terms, I'd have him around the squad, but I wouldn't be looking any longer than a 1-year extension, potentially, if it came to it. So moving on to Ethan Briley, Mr. Rochdale himself. Born and bred in Rochdale. He is a Rochdale fan, knows what it's all about. Kind of his first real exposure this season, kind of been thrust into the limelight, and he's had his appearances here and there towards the back end of this season when Bentley's called upon him. He's been quite good, I think, when he has played when he has played this season. It's obviously the whole speculation around his move that was cancelled by Blackburn because it missed out by the deadline. But to be fair, his performances on the pitch have been solid when he's played. I think he's been a driving force in that midfield. He's the only one who showed a real attacking urgency going forward and trying to get the strikers in and create chances. For me, from what I've seen of him, obviously he's only played the previous few games really. He'd be a 6.5 for me, and if we could, I would love to keep him, but I think it's highly unlikely that we will be able to keep hold of Ethan Briley this summer.
Yeah, definitely. From the interview I saw from Blackburn, it sounds like he is going in summer. So it's a massive loss there. I would give him a 6.5, maybe a 7. He's someone that demands the ball, someone that wants to take it forward, looks for that pass, like he did for the Henderson goal that brought the record. So he's definitely going to be a big miss for next season when he does move on.
I think it is just a case of when with him, really. I think that's the way it will end up going with him. Moving on from Ethan Briley, we've got Sam Graham, another one of Stockdale's signings, a defender. Has played a little bit in the Football League before. He's had experience with I believe it was Oldham. A player that I really don't rate, and that's maybe just me with a personal agenda. I've not really ever taken to him like
personal agenda.
Yeah, one of my personal agendas. Not like your Hendo rants that are absolutely obscene.
Warranted.
Definitely not. We'll get to Hendo. Yeah, poor player for me. I see everyone rant and rave about him. He does the basics of defending, but if that makes someone a good defender for me, then it just shows you how much our standards have fallen.
Think about how he was last season. This season he looks 10 times better, and I don't know if that was the confidence boost he got from going back to Notts County, taking that time away, reassessing, and then being given that trust again. Maybe the confidence and the fans being on his back last season was a massive thing for him. I know he got a massive cheer when he went off injured, and that's probably not helped. And he's probably come back this season and thought, right, I've got a point to prove to you lot this season. Definitely someone that looks a lot better. But again, has just disappeared out the limelight again.
Yeah, I mean, he came on the weekend, made about a 15-minute cameo, just because of needs must really on the weekend because of the injuries. Probably someone that will play now for a little bit towards the end of the season. I do believe his contract is up in the summer, but would you like to keep him moving into next season?
Yeah, he's a defender that I would like to keep, and he's got that little bit of know-how about the National League as well. So again, bit of experience, and
yeah, he had a stint at Notts County, didn't he?
Last season, yeah. So it would be a bit of a needed experience for us, maybe.
Absolutely. Score?
I'd give him about a 5, yeah, for what he's played, and obviously I can't give him a little bit higher if he'd played some more games, maybe a little bit more higher.
Yeah, I'm going to be harsh. I'm going to give him a 2. I think he's just a very average defender that fans have just seemed to have taken a liking to. Hendo's got the numbers to back it up, hasn't he? So we won't talk about the star boy. Yeah, a 2 out of 10 for me, and he'd be someone that I wouldn't even be entertaining looking at for next season. I'd be getting him gone as soon as possible. Moving on from that again, another player that's had an affiliation with the club before, Reece Bennett. In his first stint was a firm fans' favourite, utility player, did a bit of everything on the pitch. Obviously he's come back to us this time round, a a lot older. Has been without a club for 6 months. Hasn't really made that many appearances really since he's come back in. I'm not sure if that's due to injury recently or not. We haven't heard much on that front, but given his short time at the club and the appearances he's made, what would you rate that, Aaron?
He came back with a lot of hype.
Yeah.
And he's not lived up to it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment.
He looked okay in the first couple of games, and I think in the last few, definitely not the play. He's not looked as if someone that cares. He's just here for the end. I don't think he's that bothered.
Yeah, I think he's looking for a last payday. Really, I think that's how it's looking for him all. Yeah, it wouldn't be someone I'd entertain for a contract next season.
Not definitely.
Not for me. Not a chance. 2 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I'd say
Villa.
2 or 3.
Yeah,
personally.
I think that's a fair one. I don't think he'd even be opposed to it himself, really. Yeah, so moving on from Reece Bennett, we've got Tyrese Sinclair, player we had in on trial in the summer. Impressed in pre-season, did really well. Looked a bit of a live wire, to be fair. Started the season, I think he was a bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? A no risk signing.
Yeah,
came with a very low value, very little wages. So he was a bit of a hit or miss one, but it wouldn't really matter what the outcome was. He's featured here and there in the first half of the season. Don't really think he was Bentley's kind of player, someone that he'd like to entertain. And he's chipped in with a few goals here and there in his time at the club. Had a bit of nonsense with the whole trust the process, posting content at Christmas time whilst we sit bottom of the Football League. Not really what the fans want to see, especially with what we've been going through. But obviously Toby Malarkey came to us from Altrincham, and I believe it must have been part of the deal somewhere. Obviously, Tyrese went out on loan to Altrincham, and he's done really well for himself in the time at Altrincham. I think he's got something close to 6 or 7 goal contributions in 9 or 10 appearances in his time. Obviously, I'm sure, Aaron, you've not watched any of the highlights or anything of his time at Altrincham, but those stats look quite impressive. And
yeah, for the stats he's got, and again, that would be another reason why I'd keep him.
Well, yeah, and that's where we're looking to be next season, aren't we? Yeah. Obviously. So yeah, what would you give him out of 10?
I will probably give him a 4.
A 4?
A 4, yeah. He's popped up with the goals where they're needed. But other than that, he's not really had too much to show for it. And obviously, he's not featured for us since Christmas. So it's a bit harsh to give him anything higher than that, I would say.
But you'd like to keep him, yeah?
I would like to keep him, yeah. He's shown that he's got it about him in the National League. And that's something we could really use to our advantage next season. Yeah,
I just hope we haven't burnt all the bridges with him on a personal level. I hope he actually wants to come back to the club and perform for us. So fingers crossed. In his time at Dale, I'd give him a 4, maybe a 5 out of 10. And look from there. But yeah, I'd like to keep him on. I think he's shown his worth in the National League, and yeah, fingers crossed he'll stay on. Moving on from that, we've got Scott Quigley, a bit of a weird one really. Came in on deadline day, the only signing Jim could make at the end of the summer transfer window, given the short time he had to work in the window. Started off like a house on fire, looked really good, like a really good target man. A few goals on his debut, was it, against Carlisle?
Something like that.
1 or 2 goals, but really,
2, yeah.
But really influenced the game as well. I think straight away he looked like a firm fan's favourite. Was playing really well, and it was in that period when we had a bit of consistency, and we were maybe not winning all the games, but we were scoring. I remember obviously the Carlisle game, the Barrow game at home, the Colchester game away, when we put that little bit of run together, and then for some reason Bentley put him on in the Papa John's game. Pulls up with an injury. He's come back, and honestly, I'd say he's not been the same player since.
Yeah, he's a bit like James Ball. He's started quite well, and then had an injury, and then not really regained that sort of form. Not really been the same player. He looks to try a little bit, but he's not finding that as much as he was before the injury.
I think he's trying too hard.
Maybe sometimes, yeah. But then sometimes he maybe doesn't look like he's trying enough, and he's not. For me, he's not in the right positions. He finds himself out wide way too much when he's
a target man.
Yeah, he's the target man. I wouldn't say he's the person that should be getting out onto the wing, but maybe that's down again to just how poor we've actually been this season, that he feels like maybe he has to be there to be getting the ball into the box.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. Obviously, he is only on loan. He's on loan from Stockport. I don't see him being someone that Stockport would want to keep hold of.
No, definitely
not with their trajectory and the finances they've got to play with. For me, he's been a 4, maybe 5 out of 10 at a push. Not someone I'd probably entertain for next season. I suppose again that all depends down to management styles. He is very much one of them selective players that certain managers won't touch if they don't suit the style of play that the manager who is coming in plays with. So yeah, for me, 5 out of 10. But yourself?
Yeah, I'd give him a 5 out of 10. Maybe he's like a squad rotation player. Maybe for the National League, he's got that little bit of know-how about him, but probably not. Wouldn't be someone I'd look to bring back again next season.
You'd probably argue the case with him just before we finish off with Quigley that he's been there and done that at National League level.
Yeah,
before.
maybe it's not for him. Maybe he probably wouldn't even want to come back down to the National League if we were there looking to take him on properly.
Yeah, very, very possibly. Moving on from Scott Quigley, I'm not going to touch too much on this one because he's had a very poor season with injury. Tavon Campbell brought in for big money last January by Stockdale. Did okay last season, looked fairly decent. I think he's had some sort of a really bad injury over the course of the past year or so that's really affected his playing time. He's currently out on loan at Aldershot. I don't know how he's doing there. I've not heard really anything of him, but from what I can understand, Aldershot are doing quite poor in the National League. I don't think he's had that much game time, if I'm honest. But he's someone that really looks like he's struggling with injury. He's had little flashes in the pan. He scored that goal in the Papa John's game,
and then went back out injured again.
Yeah, and then went back out injured again. But apart from that, I don't think he's a player we can really comment on too much.
No,
apart from the fact, would you want to keep him?
No, to be honest, he's pretty much like Eddie White, I would say, and Liam Kelly. Those players that's been injury prone. Probably because of how injury prone he is, he might not be the same player when he comes back again. And it might be something that keeps him out long term, so I wouldn't keep him.
Yeah, I think that's fair. He's not someone that I'd be interested in keeping at the club now long term. I don't know. His contract may have another year on it, but he'd be someone I'd be looking to offload in the summer definitely with a fresh restart. Moving on from Tavon Campbell, we've got Toumani Diaguara. A player that I was really, really excited about was signing. He's got proven quality. He's been there, he's done it. Had a number of years at Brentford and Leeds. A real performer. Getting on in his career. 36, I believe, when he came through the door. And he has looked fairly decent when he's played, but I think the schedule of games and the amount of games he's had to play, I think it's really been to his detriment. He's struggled for fitness and to keep up with the pace of games, and I think sadly maybe he is just about that point now where he's getting over the hill with football. Before I come on to you, I'll obviously just say I'd give him probably a 4 out of 10, just because he's not been able to do it consistently enough, and he wouldn't be a player I'd be looking at keeping next season. As much as I think he is a hard worker.
Yeah, I'd give him maybe a 3.5, maybe a 4. He's another player that came with a lot of hype when he came in, and he's not really had the chance to show it as much. And I think maybe that's again showing through the lack of quality we've got in midfield, and maybe himself getting on a little bit. He's not been able to keep up with it as much. But yeah, he's probably not someone. If I was to keep him, I'd probably keep him maybe for a coaching role, because he's got that know-how and he's got that experience about him. Someone we could really use to tighten up the midfield a little bit.
We're going to run out of coaching roles here with all these coaching roles we're giving out.
Well, I'd keep him on as a player. I'd keep him on definitely as a coach for us, definitely.
Okay. I think that's fair. Moving on from Toumani Diaguara, we've got Jake Eastwood. Jake Eastwood. Oh God, this will be interesting. This will be quick. Again, this will be very quick. A player that we actually had in on loan last season for 2 games towards the end of the season. He had to be brought in on an emergency loan basis. Played the final 2 games, conceded 4 to Bristol Rovers and got a clean sheet against Newport on the final day. Came back in and I was fairly happy with it at the time, cover for a keeper. I think it's just all the events that's unravelled around him since he's come in. Obviously, prior to him signing, we just come off the back of a really impressive 2-1 win at Bradford, where O'Donnell was in net. Had been playing well up to that point, in my opinion. But for some reason, we decided to rotate the team straight away the following week, thrust Jake Eastwood into the action. He's been woeful, hasn't he? You can't deny it. he's been dropping clangers. I mean, in that very game, he spilled one through his hands from about 40 yards out. You just think, and you look where we are in the table, and you put it down to instances, individual errors like that. That's what costs you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
He's been very poor for me, and clearly hasn't got much about him. You know, he's what, 25, 26. He's still contracted to Sheffield United, and he's been on a million different loan deals in that time. Not a player for me that I'd even be remotely interested in bringing back to the club, even as cover.
No, definitely not.
0 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd say 0 for me as well. Personally, I think for us as fans, he's probably someone that relies on a lot of confidence. Give him a lot of that confidence.
Well, we're not. It's just not the environment.
But he doesn't give us the confidence as a goalkeeper.
To instill into him.
Yeah. I remember what game it was exactly, but I remember he kicked it out of play, and we'd give him a lot of shit for that, basically. And I know he turned around and was like, come on, you know. So again, maybe that's someone that does rely on a lot of confidence and not the right environment for him.
No, it's a very toxic environment. I think you need people with strong mentalities, especially when you're fighting at the base of the table in the Football League. You need people who are going to, roll the sleeves up and have the know-how to do it. You are going to get fan pressure. It's part and parcel of football. But he's been someone that's not been able to cope with that side of the game. Wish him all the best, obviously, in the future. But he's someone I don't want to see in a Dale shirt ever again.
Definitely not.
Moving on from Jake Eastwood, we've got Owen Dodgson, young lad, came in on loan from Burnley. Someone I've not seen a great deal of because I've been struggling to get to games recently. The turn of the year since he's joined. The appearances I've seen him in, he has been fairly consistent for a young lad. He's not looked bad. He's very raw, very young. Obviously needs to develop further, and I'm sure he will with his game. Straight off the bat, I probably wouldn't want to keep him on next season as another loan deal, and I'd probably give him, from what I've seen him, a 5 out of 10.
I think 5 out of 10 is very fair for him. To be fair, he's coming with a bit of promise, and he's showing what he can do. Like you say, he's still young, so I think given if he had the right place to be nurtured, it's another talent there.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on from Owen Dodgson, we've got who did play in his position previously, Cameron John. This one is a weird one. You look at him on paper, was meant to be really highly thought of at Doncaster, was meant to be this great defender that everyone was looking at. Somehow we managed to get a deal for him, but at the time it seemed like a great coup. Obviously signed by Stockdale, 2-year deal. He is actually Rochdale's highest earner, which is shocking now that you look on it in hindsight. But the first initial games I've seen him in, he looked like he doesn't even know how to play football. He's got the weirdest pass, boot, kick, whatever you want to call it, way of playing football. He doesn't look like a footballer, which is baffling considering all the praise he got from Doncaster fans. Because they seem really upset when he'd left them.
Crazy how I got away with being the pro football in that video as well that he did.
Oh yeah, he's absolutely come out and scathed the club as well. Scathed Rochdale as a place and saying he would never live there. Saying he lives in Preston. I'm not sure Preston is that much better anyway, but there you go. He's been a terrible player this season. He's got to be a 1 out of 10 for me.
1, yeah. He's had maybe 2 good games, but
You must be joking.
He did have 1 or 2 that was okay, but nothing brilliant.
Yeah.
Definitely can't give him any higher because he's been very poor this season. And again, I don't feel like I should give him any higher because of the comments he came out with about the club and the town.
No, you disrespect the club and you are effectively burning all bridges with the area of Rochdale,
And rightly deserved.
You're never going to get fans
not really played as much since as well.
No, absolutely not. Moving on from that, we've got Danny. I'm gonna butcher this one because I always call him Danny Lloyd, but his full name is Daniel Lloyd McGoldrick. Now, this guy has been sensational.
10,
yeah, straight off the bat, 10. And before we get into his analysis, absolutely keep. I'm sure you're the same.
100%.
Everyone says it. If we had another 10 Danny Lloyds on the pitch, we wouldn't be in the position we're in. He's been a sensational performer since he's come into the club. Has really embodied what it is to be at this club and to play for this club. He's put his heart and soul into it every match.
And Gillingham fans rate him as well, and they're disappointed he's gone as well. So I think it shows just how good of a player he actually is.
I think he's one of them players that we've been lucky to get just because of how severe his injury was, and we were the club that were willing to give him a chance to come back in and prove himself as a footballer again. But yeah, phenomenal. It's not always worked for him. It's not always pulled it off every match day. But he's always tried.
Yeah,
always been a consistent performer.
I would say him and maybe Toby have been probably the only two at times that have looked like they can actually want to do anything.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Weirdly enough, moving on from that, the next player is
Toby
Malarkey. Brought in from Altrincham on deadline day by Bentley. One of the few good things that Bentley's done, along with McGoldrick and a few of his other signings. Shame it's not all worked out on the pitch. Yeah, another solid performer. I wouldn't give him as high as Lloyd.
Probably give him maybe an 8.5. He did look to drop his quality just a little bit on Saturday.
But he does something that none of our defenders have done.
He likes to run with the ball, and he likes to attack. And you could see that in the Crewe game. He looked like he was the only one wanted to push forward a little bit, and that he's definitely an 8.5. Another one of the standout performers for the season for me personally.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, he is contracted for next season, but obviously there might be interest in surrounding him. I'm similar in my rating, as I say, 8.5. But would he be a player that if we can keep, you want him here?
100%. Yeah. There's no way I wouldn't want to keep Toby Malarkey.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. We've saved the best for last. We're not going to touch too much on the youth players because in between that there is a few players here that have made short little appearances here and there, but I don't really want to touch on that because you can't really judge that too much. The man, the myth, the legend, the hero should own the rights to the town. Mr. Ian Henderson, club legend, record goal scorer. Aaron, you can't tell me he's not a 9 out of 10.
Not a 9 out of 10.
Oh God,
he's not a 9 out of 10.
Oh, you're joking me?
No. Simply because I'll give him his credit. He brought the record for that 6 because he's come back and he's.
I think he is the second highest goal scorer this season for us.
Doesn't matter for me personally.
Why?
Because he's not the same player. He was brought back for nostalgia. He was like Cristiano Ronaldo, and I said this at the time. He was brought back for nostalgia. He does not produce the same quality moments.
He's 38 years old, Aaron.
Are we going back with that one?
Yeah, we're going to go back to that one. Yeah. Back on the terraces again.
Yeah.
He's 38 years old, man. He can't run.
For me, he's not the same. And again, on Saturday, he was someone that didn't put in the performances. He didn't look like he cared a lot from when he came on. And the chance that he had 2 or 3 years ago, he's putting that away.
He probably is, Aaron. He probably is.
He took his time.
But I don't ever think he envisaged coming back into this situation when Stockdale had given him the dream. I think he was always coming back in under the illusion that we were going to be challenging for a playoff spot or promotion. I don't think he was ever geared up for another dogfight, especially in League Two. I think if we were still in League One, he'd have understood it and he'd have been geared up for it. But the age he's at, he's getting on. Yes, don't get me wrong, he is like Ronaldo in that sense. He looks after his body and he looks after himself properly. And he's had his moments this season. For me, he's a player that's got to stay at this club. He's our record goal scorer.
Yeah, I'd 100%. I'd keep him at the club. But for this season, how he's played,
we're bottom of the football league.
But it still feels like for the nostalgia. And for me, at the time when he left, I had a lot of bad feelings and a lot of bad blood about how he'd left. And obviously, the post that he put on Facebook, I still can't forget that one. I think misnaming the club.
Without going into too much detail with all that, I think it's what side you lie on with all that. Everyone's got a different opinion on that, and I don't want to go too much into all that because we are just grading him off this season.
But for me, it still felt too much nostalgia. Mm-hmm. Obviously, okay. I love that he's come back, and I love that he's broken the record. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, but for me personally, it felt like we were making a step back.
Without his goals, we'd probably be about 8-9 points less than we are now.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Well, he's obviously broke the record against Salford, didn't he, as well? And he's popped up and he scored again in that 4-4 draw.
Yeah. For me, I think we actually have activated some sort of clause in his contract now. He's played so many appearances. I think we have to offer him terms. Whether he wants to carry on is a different matter. And obviously, given the level and everything, but for me, he's got to be a player you've got to have around because he's a great influence on the young lads.
Yes.
Great at developing, bringing that bond. And if going forward, that is absolutely what we need.
100%
We need that
he will.
integration back in with the youth players again. That's something that's just died a death the past few years.
For me, yeah, he would. As much as I'd give him stick for it, again, he's got that prowess. He knows how to score goals. Why he's broken the record. He could very much help the next generation come through, and even push on, to maybe even break the record for them themselves.
Yeah, very possibly, very possibly. For me, like I say, just to round it off, he has got to stay at the club, and he's been a 7 out of 10 for me. Yeah, he's not been as amazing as he has been in prior years, but you've got to take into factor his age and everything. The older you get, things do slow down.
Like we said with Tamar, not as.
I don't think he's in as bad a shape as Tamar.
No, but obviously the age there as well, it's not going to help. I don't know. Obviously, you'll criticise me for my points, but obviously a lot of people.
That's the good thing about being a fan. We can all have different opinions.
I know a lot of users as well, yourself and maybe Travis as well, at points have said Henderson has not had great games.
Yeah, he's had individual bad moments this season.
Obviously,
I think the good has outweighed the bad.
Yeah, he's had a lot of good moments, but obviously there has been a lot of bad moments, and that sometimes probably adds a little fuel to the fire.
Yeah, maybe so. But for me, yeah, has got to stay. That's all the players rounded up for today. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and thank you, Aaron, for joining me on this.
Cheers for having me again.
Thank you very much, and up the Dale.
Up the Dale.